I'm only
Are-
in the car for the work session. I'm planning on actually being
Julie, we can't hear you. Okay, wait, I have to say, hold on. We are live.
for the
We're live.
meeting.
We're live for the work session now. Julie,
Just
we
so
couldn't.
you know, I might have to go through all this again.
That's okay. That's okay.
Oh,
If
you can't hear me?
we can hear you now, but it's really scratchy. If you want to drop off until you you get to where you're going to be joining with a better connection, that's fine, or you can stay on. But we're live now for the work session. Okay, Karen, it's all yours.
Okay, so tonight we're going to hear two hops in the preliminary. The first hop is Elm Street, which is about windows. The owner doesn't agree with staff's requirements. The second one is Baltimore Avenue. That's the one down in Tacoma, the little post-war nothing house that's getting the second floor. That one we're hearing simply because the next door neighbors want to discuss the impact of the second story on their house. And this is the neighbor uphill. It isn't the one on the far side of that easement. And then the big case tonight is, or thing we're going to talk about, is the preliminary for Clarksburg. And it's on 355 and Stringtown Road. There's the Dale House. Do I have that right? Dale House. Historic
The Day House.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The Day House.
The Day House.
Mm-hmm.
Historic house, and on a large lot or large piece of property, and the county would like to build a library there. And we are to discuss tonight, we are limiting our discussions to what we think how the house should be treated as far as any other construction on the property goes, and where they are proposing to put their library based on extenuating existing circumstances. So with that in mind, just there won't be anything what libraries propose to look like. It is purely the existing house and how that's our business. That's how it's, how it's going to be handled, how it's going to be respected in its position, or if something needs to happen to it. And then also where the library is proposed, and they'll explain the site restrictions that they are dealing with. Did y'all hear that? Because my image is frozen.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. And that's kind of it. So depending on how quickly we get through these hops, it won't be a terribly late evening.
Yep. We also have tonight our Group 5 tax credits for you all. We're expecting to have one last Group 6 in September, and then we will be all done with the tax credits, which is a huge accomplishment by Laura and Devin and Dan, that I think this is the earliest we've ever gotten them done. So wrapping that up. So we have Group 5 tonight. We do not have meeting minutes for the July 23rd meeting for you. We will have those in September.
Do we have another meeting this month?
No, we do not. We have just the one meeting in August. We will be back on September the 3rd, so 2 days after Labor Day. I will be joining you guys virtually for that one, but the auditorium is back open, so everybody else will be in person. And yeah, and we will be hopefully having our new commissioners join us in September for the 2nd September meeting. They are being put on the docket for the county council's approval when they come back from the August recess. So I'll give you guys more updates on that as we have them, but that's the plan. So we will be saying goodbye to Christina and Bob, who has already had to stop attending the meetings. Okay. Any other, I guess, questions, like procedural questions about tonight?
Are you okay, Jeff, on doing all our usual vice chair stuff?
Yes. Yep.
It's been a long time since we've had to do this.
And what do we do? Share screen for all the presentation and testimony and all that?
Yes. So the staff will be sharing out our screens for our presentations. Folks who have submitted testimony in advance, we have their information that we can share out. And also, as people join us at 6:50, Kevin is also going to be asking them if they can share out their screens if they're able to do it, so that they could also present on their own. Also, because we're not in the auditorium, we don't have the auditorium timer. So we're going back to what we used to do during COVID days when I have my cell phone with a timer on it. So I will just set that at the appropriate times and then gently remind everybody when they have reached their time, and then look to the chair to see how much additional time folks should have. Hopefully we'll just be able to go, I think we'll be able to go just from one item to the next without having to do a pause in the live feed. But we may, depending on the applicant team for the preliminary consultation is really large. It's a lot of people. So if they are not all able to join us and get checked in during the work session, then I may ask Isaac to pause the live feed so that we can do the kind of check-in with everybody and then come back live. Okay.
Do we need to, the commissioners need to stay on camera, or can we shut our cameras off?
No, please do stay on camera while we are live, everybody. Everybody from the commission, we don't need it from the staff who are not participating in the item. But yes, commissioners, please keep your cameras on. And actually, we didn't check this, but does everybody see in your toolbar the little hand to raise your hand? You see how, does everybody see how I just clicked it? Yes. And you get an orange box around you. So what I can see the order in which people have raised their hands in the participant list. Karen, are you able to see that when you click on the participant list? Could some other people just like raise their hand? Karen, you're muted.
You're muted.
Karen, can you see in the participant list who's raised their hand in what order?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So it used to be people couldn't do that if they didn't organize the meeting. So Karen, do you just want to look to that then to call on people in the order they've raised their hand?
Yes, I would prefer to do that.
Great. Okay. So when you're done, also, so it looks like everybody's raised their hands and then put it back down again. Okay. Cool. Okay. Any other questions about the order of operations for this? I know it's been a while since we've done an all virtual meeting. Nope. Okay. Great. So we are going to stop the work session from going live. We're going to Turn that off. Okay, we are now live.
Good evening and welcome to the August 13th, 2025 meeting of the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Karen Burdett and I am the chair. I will now ask commissioners and staff to introduce themselves beginning on my virtual left.
Zara Nasser.
This is Commissioner Mark Mignani.
Jeffrey Haynes.
Julie
Michael
Pellet-
Galway. Oops.
Oh, sorry.
Julie, can you go again?
Julie Pelletier.
Michael, can you go again?
Sure. Michael Galway.
Okay, that's all. I'll start. So Rebecca Ballo, Historic Preservation Staff.
Dan Bruckert, Historic Preservation Staff.
Laura Di Pasquale, Historic Preservation Staff.
Devin Martha, Historic Preservation Staff.
And I believe that is it, correct?
That is everyone.
Thank you. Our first item on the agenda tonight are the historic area work permits. Have the work permits been duly advertised?
Yes, Madam Chair, they were advertised in the July 30th edition of the Washington Times.
Thank you. If anyone is here to testify for any of the cases, please give a speaker form to staff and they will let us know that you are here to address one of the cases. We are going to begin by expediting the cases we believe can be expedited based on the staff reports. This will be a consent agenda. So I'm now going to read the list of those cases on the consent agenda. Is anyone here to speak in opposition to case 1A at 203 Market Street, Brookville, 1C at 1003 Pratt Place, Silver Spring, 1D at 4W Melrose Street, Chevy Chase, 1E at 10110 Day Avenue, Silver Spring, 1F at 10700 Columbia Pike, Silver Spring, 1H at 20 Hickory Avenue, Tacoma Park, 1I at 5604 York Lane, Bethesda, and 1J at 4101 Muncaster Mill Road, Brookville.
Madam Chair, hearing no objections, I move that we approve the following historic area work permits in accordance with staff reports based upon the record before us in consideration of the recommendations of local advisory panels and including the conditions recommended by staff. Hop number 1121551 at 203 Market Street, Brookville. Hop number 1127977 at 10003 Pratt Place, Silver Spring. Hop number 1124626 at 4 West Melrose Street, Chevy Chase. Hop number 1124659 retroactive at 10110 Day Avenue, Silver Spring. Hop number 1125394 at 10700 Columbia Pike, Silver Spring. Hop number 1125778 at 20 Hickory Avenue, Tacoma Park. Hop number 1125774 at 5604 York Lane, Bethesda. And hop number 1125581 at 4101 Muncaster Mill Road, Rockville.
Commissioner Galway, can you give me a second, please, on the motion?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Galway. I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you. This motion passes unanimously. That is 6 votes. So these cases are approved. If you have any questions, you can speak to staff tomorrow during regular business hours. We appreciate your work to preserve your properties and in working with staff to submit easily approvable permits. The first case we will hear tonight is item 1B at 113 Elm Avenue, Tacoma Park. Is there a staff report?
Madam
Chair
Chair.
Burdett, before we begin, Rebecca Ballo has her hand raised and I believe has a question or a comment.
Thank you. And we had Commissioner Doman in the lobby, so I was going to ask to pause so I could get him checked in, but he has left the lobby. So if he comes back, I will let him in the meeting and let you know at a time that is, not inappropriate for the presentation that he has arrived. So hopefully he'll come back into the lobby and we can get him checked in. So I'd say, Dan, please go ahead.
Staff report?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is the staff report for HOP 111-6058 at 113 Elm Avenue in Tacoma Park. This is a contributing resource to the Tacoma Park Historic District, constructed circa 1913, and this is to be reviewed under the Tacoma Park Historic District Design Guidelines, Montgomery County Code, Chapter 24A, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. The applicant proposes to remove 8 wood windows and replace them with aluminum-clad windows, and remove an existing wood door and replace it with a steel door. The proposed door is circled in red. The photos of existing conditions show deterioration and damage, including water damage and wood rot in the case of the door. And the applicant proposes to replace 8 windows in total. There are 3 on the second floor bay, the 2 sets of paired windows, and then a single window in the rear elevation. And these windows show signs of mold, of some rot, paint failure. 3 of the existing windows have window AC units in them, which has likely caused additional moisture issues. And the applicants, in discussions with staff, had contacted several window restoration companies who passed on the job. That's for the commission's information. The proposed door is a 20-gauge half-light door with clear glass. It's an aluminum frame with a paintable aluminum door. And the proposed windows are Pella Lifestyle double-hung windows. They're aluminum-clad windows with a white exterior factory finish, which Pella calls EnduraClad. So staff finds that based on the condition of the windows and with the knowledge that the resident is suffering mold-related illnesses, the removal of these windows is supported under 24A8B4 and D and the design guidelines. Additionally, the door shows rot, warping, and cracking. Mold is evident on both the door and its jamb. And based on the photographic evidence, the door was removed and reinstalled so that it swings out. Based on this, staff finds the door has deteriorated beyond repair and suggests its removal under 24A8B4 and D and the design guidelines. Staff also finds that the historic wood windows are a character-defining feature and therefore looks to Standard 6 for guidance on consideration of the appropriate course of action. Standard 6 says the new feature shall match the old and design color, texture, and other visual quantities and, where possible, materials. Staff finds that 7 of the windows are in a highly visible location from the right-of-way. There's an alley dedication that will preserve the large separation between the subject property and its neighbor. And while aluminum-clad finish is closer to painted wood than vinyl, it still does not match the appearance, nor will it develop a patina. And staff finds that wood is the only appropriate material for the 7 windows on the right elevation. Staff finds that on the rear elevation, the Tacoma Park Historic District design guidelines encourage more leniency where things are not visible from the right of way. Additionally, that's not a historic opening, which is why staff finds that an aluminum clad window is acceptable in that location. Previously, the HPC has reviewed window replacement hops for 5 Philadelphia Avenue and 7417 Maple Avenue. In both cases, they needed to be wood. Staff found a recent instance where the HPC approved a substitute material for a door. This is actually an outstanding resource at 106 Tulip Avenue, but that was in a location that was not at all visible from the public right-of-way and in a door for a non-historic addition. So staff has been unable to locate a door in Tacoma Park on a contributing or outstanding resource where wood was not the appropriate material. So Staff finds that the front door is one of the few decorative features on the front of the house and is character defining, and that the steel door does not accurately replicate the profile or finish of the historic wood door, and finds that wood is the only appropriate material for the replacement. So staff recommends that the HPC approve the rear window as proposed under 24A8B2 and D in the design guidelines, and recommends that the HPC condition the approval to require that the 7 windows on the right elevation be replaced with wood per 24A8B4 and D in standards 2 and 6. And staff recommends that the HPC condition the approval of the replacement door to require wood per 24A8B4 and D and standards 2 and 6. And with that, I will answer any questions that you have at this time.
Are there any questions for staff? Please raise your hands. Commissioner Pelletier.
Thanks. Refresh my memory, when do we allow aluminum clad windows?
In looking through records of previous HOPs, those have usually been, non-contributing resources allow for maximum flexibility, but ordinarily aluminum clad windows have been approved in instances where it's a new construction or building addition, or in select instances where the historic windows have already been removed and you're replacing a non-historic replacement.
Okay.
I did find one instance recently where there was a contributing resource that had replaced all of their windows with vinyl before the establishment of the historic district, and they replaced the front elevation with wood windows, and then the sides and rear were replaced with aluminum clad wood windows. So that was an instance where the HPC has approved aluminum clad in the historic openings. However, the historic fabric had already been removed.
Okay, and the current windows are original.
Yes, everything that I've seen indicates that they are original.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Galway.
Yes, Commissioner Galway. Is it the intent to put the window air conditioners back in the new windows once the new windows are installed? Do you know?
Question better posed to the applicant.
Fair enough. Okay, thanks.
Would you like us to answer that, or?
Hold on
No.
1 minute. Are there any more questions from the commissioners? If not, we will let the applicants speak, and we have Brian and Catherine Rowland this evening, and you have 7 minutes to speak on your application, your home.
Thank you, and we appreciate your time. So the house, we appreciate the ability to potentially replace the windows because, as Dan mentioned, we've not really had success in finding someone who's willing to fix them. And they are kind of beyond repair, as you've seen from the pictures. We do think that aluminum clad is the way to go, though, versus just pure wood windows. I don't actually know if they're original windows. There's one point, I don't know if they were there the whole time or they were replaced throughout the years. I'm just not sure. And as far as the question that was asked about the air conditioner, the answer is yes. In the short term, we're probably going to have to replace it because of the structure of the house and how the air conditioning was put in. There are a lot of restrictions on how it can be, and it just doesn't work very well. So yes, the answer, we probably are going to have to keep those air conditioners, which is another reason actually for doing the aluminum clad. So I'll kind of go through a few reasons why we think that aluminum clad is the way to go. I think that you got the pictures that we submitted the other day. Yes, of other examples. So the aluminum clad actually does look the same as the wood from the outside. I also saw that I know we're not in DC, but in DC they've approved the use of aluminum clad for historic properties as well. So the benefit of the aluminum clad is it looks the same, but it also doesn't require the same kind of changes that the fully wood version would have. So for example, we wouldn't need any storm windows or extra screens that would probably detract from the appearance of the house. You wouldn't have the kind of continuous maintenance that would be required that could potentially lead to another problem, especially with the air conditioners that we have to put in there. You're probably going to see the same kind of issues over and over again versus the aluminum clad that while they look the same, they won't require the same kind of upkeep and they will maintain their kind of look and feel for much longer. So those are some pretty big issues there, as well as I don't know. So I'll just throw this out there. The cost of fully wood windows versus aluminum clad windows is about double. So for these windows, we're looking at around $18,000 for the windows, just for aluminum clad. But if you go all the way to wood, it's over $30,000. So it's an excessive amount of money that honestly is pretty hard to handle. Another point I wanted to make is that while there is this easement beside our house, it's not really a road. It's more like a fire easement that's been there. So it is something that, from my understanding, was put in there in case you had like a fire emergency or anything. But in any event, it's been built over by our neighboring property owners, so it's unusable anyway. So nobody is using it as a right of way, and people park there. It's like a driveway at this point for our next door neighbors, and the rest of the neighbors have simply built their fences over it. And it's not a right of way for any kind of practical purpose. So that is the main issue. I will note that we actually wanted to replace 9 windows. I think maybe one got missed in the count versus 8. So of the 9 windows I'm talking about, there was one in the back, Dan. So there are 2 on top of each other in the back that are the same. So just wanted to make a point of order about that. I don't know, Brian, if you wanted to say anything else about the window.
So I think the only other thing is, if we are required to install wood, those are shared rooms. It's unlikely that we would mix materials with those rear windows. We'd really be requiring us to do all 9 in all wood if the clad is not approved.
So that's our case for our aluminum clad window plan. As far as the door, obviously we would prefer to do a steel door, but that is something we appreciate is on the front of the house. And that door is, just so you know, kind of a mess, because everyone who's looked at it has said it's kind of been installed incorrectly. Like, why is it? It's very strange. It has a screen door, but it's on the inside of the house, not the outside of the house. It's just a bizarre door. So don't know why it's so weird. Our house is old and strange.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the commissioners for the applicants? And please raise your hands. Commissioner Pelletier.
Sorry, I'm on my phone here. I'm looking at the presentation on my iPad, but I wasn't able to connect. So there's 9 windows, correct, that are being replaced?
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
So on the presentation, I see, oh, is that a bay? Oh, okay. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And in the back, there's the one that's circled and then the one above it?
Yep.
That's right.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah. The bay window is, I guess, essentially 3 windows, but it's really
Right.
one bay window.
Commissioner Haynes.
I just wanted to ask, what's your intention for the rest of the windows?
The rest of the windows, so I think there's something to the fact of what the side of this house, that side is the one that gets the brunt of all of this for some reason. So the rest of the windows we were going to not touch.
So they would remain.
Situation. They don't need replacing or anything. They, for whatever reason, I think it's the direction of the sun hitting it or something, but they're not nearly the same situation.
So they'll remain wood windows.
Yeah, on that side of the house, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And the back of our house, it has a mix because the 2 windows in the rear of the house, they're replacing windows on an area that used to be a sitting porch that was enclosed at some point, and none of them are original. They're all a mixture of different kinds. Like, some of them are little teeny tiny windows that are like one of those levered windows you have, and some of them are big vinyl windows. It's just a huge mix back there.
I have a question for staff. Am I allowed to ask?
Commissioner Pelletier, go right ahead.
Okay. Is the bay original? Do we know?
Commissioner Pelletier is asking if anybody knows if the bay is original to the house.
Sorry, I muted myself and I needed to move back a couple screens. If you look on the application, it actually includes page 5 of the application includes 2 details from a Sanborn map. So the 1927 and 1953 Sanborns both show that bay window. Because the house was constructed in 1913, I find it hard to believe that the bay was added within the first 14 years post-construction.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking for these drawings. I couldn't find them. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Can I make a quick point about the house and the originality? We know that the house has changed a lot over the years, so we think the footprint was about half of what it is now, maybe a little bit less. So over the years, we've discovered, as we've lived here for 20 some years now, whenever we try to do anything, we realize, oh, you know, this piece was added on. And like, that's why our roof is crazy too. If you look at the pictures, you will see our crazy roof because things have been just added on in pieces. So it's kind of hard to really determine when things were added.
And the house was likely originally an L-shaped configuration, and an addition was added to the front and then of course to the back to wrap the porch.
Dan, did the Sanborn map show an L configuration, or can you share out the Sanborn, or can you just speak to what the map showed as the configuration again?
I'm happy to share them out. So,
thank you.
Yeah, the info. So here are both of the Sanborn maps. The left one is 1927. The right one is 1953. The research that we've done on the house also indicated that it was constructed and lived in by John Raines, who was a carpenter in Tacoma Park who built many other houses. And this was occupied by the Raines family until the late 60s. So, you know, it's not surprising that a carpenter would have done extensive work on his house. However, the documentation that we have does show a full width front porch, a bay on the right side. The rear porch is only about half width, which has been subsequently enclosed and expanded. You can see in the 1953 map, it shows the sleeping porch has been fully enclosed and is the full width of the property and by then. But our other research did not uncover any additional changes beyond that.
This is Chair Burton. I just want to confirm that there are no windows on the front of the house that are applied to be replaced. This is all taking place on the one side of the house and the 2 windows on the back, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is it possible, were the original windows, is it possible to tell if they were handmade by the original owner carpenter, or were they machine produced and installed in the house by the original owner?
They don't seem like that. They seem like when the window people came to give us quotes on new windows, they seemed like they'd seen this kind of window before. So it was not like a bespoke window of any sort.
Okay, that clarifies that, yes. Are there any other questions for the applicant or for staff? If there are not, then we will begin our discussion. Oh, Commissioner Haynes?
Thank you. Sorry for the late hand. Question for the owner. Do you intend in the future to replace the remaining windows around the house?
I mean, not at this time, not in something, as I mentioned, because they're on the other ones, they seem okay. So we're not trying to disturb things that aren't, I mean, they'll need paint, you know, like all windows eventually, but they are, we do actually have one replacement on, I'm looking at it, that was made at some point in our kitchen. So the prior owners upgraded for the time, a 2000 era kitchen update, and they obviously changed that window. It's not an original window. I'm looking at it. It's Doesn't look like any of the other windows, but it's facing the other side of the house. I'm not sure why they did that.
This is Chair Burdett. It's it's on the side of the house, not the rear of the house.
Yeah, so yeah, you don't know what face. I'm sorry, you don't know which way I'm facing in my house. So like behind me is are the windows we want to replace, kind of would be behind, and in front of me on the other side of the house is a window in our kitchen that was replaced.
Right.
We don't know.
It was about 2000. So
We think it's around 2000. The previous owners did some sort of update to the house and they did that.
I thought I had another question, but so question about you did get pricing on replacing the windows for a vinyl clad wood window, but then also did you get pricing for replacing the windows with all wood windows?
Yeah, so we got two different quotes. We got, well, they of course were trying to give us like pure vinyl quotes, and we knew that was not going to work. So we don't know how much just vinyl windows would cost. So we got two different kinds of quotes. We got the quote for the aluminum clad that we're proposing to do, and that was for around the $17,000 for 9 windows. Did not know windows were this expensive, but apparently windows are. And then for the fully wood ones, they are around one quote that was $29,000 and one quote that was $31,000. So a very large difference in window price.
And you are aware that the wood window replacement, you would get tax credits.
Yes. I don't think that would, I mean, I think it might not replace, you know, that would be nice, but I think we would rather not have to make that expenditure if possible.
And we were also advised that the woods will require repainting and maintenance every 5 to 10 years.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners? If not, we will begin our discussion on this case before we take our vote. Would someone like to start? I'll start with a couple of comments. I am really torn on this case. Usually we are dealing with windows that have been replaced previously. So replacing them with the aluminum clad wood windows is the way we require people to go, because those are the closest looking windows you can do without going fully wood. But if you're replacing something that's not original, then that is allowed, or if it's on the back of the property. But anything that's on the front of the house or visible from either side of the house, then we typically require replacement of the aluminum clad wood is an option, or again, depending on when it's what you're replacing. But if it's the original, we want original wood windows and doors. And I say that and in Tacoma in particular, because Tacoma has its own standards, its own requirements. And just to preface, we don't set precedent and we don't go by precedent in our hearings. We view every case or judge every case on its own merits with the guidelines for the county and for the historic district to guide us. That being said, I'm not quite sure where I sat with this, other than I do think you should be replacing the door up top with a wood door and not a steel door, and getting it set properly in the frame and opening properly and meeting code again. I'm not sure why they did it, other than if there at one point was the house was a rental and they wanted, you know, the fire egress of that era, whatever that was, required a door that swung outward. But that would be that one I think you should do it with instead of steel. If there are any other commissioners who'd like to comment next, Commissioner Haynes.
Thank you. Yeah, I too am conflicted about this particular case. We're talking about a house that is going to continue to have wood windows, so you're going to continue to have maintenance on those windows. You're also going to have, you're proposing to have two different types of windows on the same facade. So you're proposing clad windows in the bay window at the second floor, but keeping the wood windows at the first floor. So now we have two different types of windows on the same facade. And while the clad windows, which I've used plenty in my own practice, there will be a noticeable difference when you have an original wood window and a clad windows. The dimensions of the frame, the sash itself will be different than the older windows, etc. I find it a little odd that perhaps from a purist standpoint, that we'd be willing to mix clad windows with wood windows, and there'll be probably just as many wood windows on the house as there would be clad, or if not more. I don't know the other side elevation, the number of windows, but typically I tend to be sympathetic as a homeowner myself, and would tend to lean towards allowing the clad windows, as they've often have been, a suitable replacement. And particularly Pella is a good brand of window. I'm very familiar with it. But I also, at the same time, conflicted that we would have two different types of windows on the same facade. And particularly that if we look at the photographs, the one image where you see it from the front, you can see the front elevation, you can see the side elevation. So clearly you'll see the wood windows at the front, you'll see the clad windows on the side. Then that's figure 4 if you're trying to find that photograph. So I don't know, I can't, I would tend to lean towards consistency in my own thinking. And since you aren't intending to replace the rest of the windows, I would lean towards replacing these windows with wood windows and applying for a tax credit.
Thank you. I had a quick question. This is Chair Burnett. Do you have sash pockets on these windows?
New sash pockets.
I don't know.
What is a sash pocket? You have to.
Dan can answer that.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
sorry.
yes, Chair Burnett, they do. Actually, some of these windows still have sash cords attached. You know, despite the case of the condition of the sashes themselves and the jam in some cases, but they do have sash cords attached, which I noticed and actually commented on in the staff report. So yes, they do.
Thank you. That kind of points to the age of the windows. Any other comments from any of the commissioners? If not, I guess I'm going to ask for a motion. And the motion would be based on the staff report and recommendations. Give us a minute, because this is it's a lot different than when we're doing it in the,
We don't have our cheat sheets in front of us.
yeah, we don't have the cheat sheets, and we can't. Generally, Commissioner Haynes is sitting right beside me, so.
We can put up the deck again, at least with the staff recommendations. So if you want to change something or go with it, you'll at least have that language up front.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it this Commissioner Haynes, is it appropriate to poll the commissioners as to their views on wood versus the clad units?
Are you talking about before the vote or after?
Yes,
Or during?
before.
I mean, we can go, Chair Burdett, at your discretion. You could go person by person down the row to, to ask. We can't, I have to look in the regs about doing a straw poll, but we used to do that during the virtual hearings during COVID, just making everybody kind of make a statement about it.
I agree with that. I think that everybody does need to weigh in on this one because it is going to be, again, we don't do precedents, but it is going to be a precedent setting vote, depending on how we go, for Tacoma Park. And we get a lot of applicants or hops from Tacoma Park. So I'll start with Commissioner Nasser since her hand is up.
This is Commissioner Nasser. My point of view, we have the guidelines. This house is a contributing resource, and I understand the challenges. I understand the hardship that it might cause to the owners, but in my opinion, they should be replaced in kind, in wood, since it's very visible from the street, the side elevation and the front elevation. They're both very visible, and aluminum and wood are definitely different long term. Yeah, I guess in this case, and based on the guidelines and this condition of the house as a contributing resource, I would recommend the wood replacement.
Thank you. Commissioner Dominiani?
Hi, this is Commissioner Dominiani. I tend to agree. I first of all would like to say that the front should certainly remain wood and be replaced in kind. I have some sympathy about the side of the house, which is, yes, a little bit less visible, but I think still pretty prominent the way that this lot and the ones next to it are formatted. And I'm also hearing other commissioners and agreeing with their view that mixing clad and wood on one facade is going to be sort of harmful to the historic character. And therefore, I would recommend replacing in kind wood with wood. And note that although it is very expensive, tax credits are designed to help homeowners confront some of these very expensive replacements, especially in kind. And so with that, I would prefer, I think, to see in kind. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Pelletier.
I had a question or a thought about, as far as cost and that stuff goes, but and I guess this is putting it back to the other commissioners. If they replaced all of the windows on that facade with aluminum clad, would that be more acceptable? I'm concerned. I have the same concerns as everybody that putting the window units back in is gonna affect those wood windows pretty quickly. New wood windows are not like old wood windows as far as durability goes. But would a possible solution, which I still think would be less expensive than doing the wood windows, would a possible solution be to replace all of the windows on that facade with the aluminum clad? I sort of want to run that by the group and see what people think.
Well, it wouldn't, again, we're back, whether it's partial or full replacement, again, the guidelines say it should be a wood replacement, simply because it's visible. So it's either or, and the quantity of how many of the windows are replaced is not really, isn't doing the decision for me, at least. I think if you've got to make the case, or you've got to make your vote on the windows that are before us and not all the windows on that side of the house, and it's wood or the aluminum clad wood. So I appreciate what your argument is or what your question is, but I don't think you can ask the applicant to replace 3 more windows and go with that cost.
Well, I think the cost is less than doing the wood windows. That's my only concern, is that these window units are going to eat up these new wood windows pretty quickly. But I hear you. I know what the guidelines say, and I appreciate that. So I mean, if given this or nothing, or given this or the choice of having different windows on that side or having them all be wood, I would also go, I would vote for the wood window.
Yeah. I mean, this is Chair Bird. I appreciate your point. I would say with proper maintenance and obviously these windows have been damaged from decades of questionable maintenance, that you can repair a window in place and in kind if it requires partial repairs. You can fill the pockets, sash pockets, with insulation if it's cold. And I'm speaking from personal experience because I live in a 1928 house, and we have the original windows in them. And we had air window units in them for the first 10 years we lived in the house until we got high velocity AC in the house. So the windows, the last time they were painted in our house was, I guess, about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And they're holding up really well. And they happen to be west facing, the ones I'm thinking of. So again, it's a lot of these windows need to be replaced because of either deferred maintenance or lack of maintenance that goes back decades and decades. They need to be replaced. But with the replacement wood windows, the expectation is that if they're properly maintained, the paint is kept up, and there's proper sealant, then they will last as long. They will last decades, several decades still. Long past the point that any of us will still be worrying about them. So that's, I think we just have to rule on the windows that we have before us, because that's the application. I have a question for the applicant, I guess, because we're still debating this, and we haven't quite gotten through the poll, but you did talk to a window replacement for wood windows, correct? A company.
Sorry, can you repeat that? What did you say?
Did you talk to a window company for the wood replacement windows, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
We received two quotes for all wood replacement.
Okay.
And we would just note, we would, Commissioner Pelletier, we would be willing to do all the windows on that side if that was a factor in this. And we have actually repainted all those windows in those pictures, believe it or not, 10 years ago. It's just, we have continuously tried to keep them up there. I think it's just that, who knows, but something is messed up with them.
Yeah. Commissioner Galway, I don't think we ever got your opinion on this.
No, you haven't. This is Commissioner Galway. I'm very sympathetic to the additional cost of the wood windows, but I think at the end of the day, I'd have to side with the recommendations of staff and go ahead and replace the windows with wood windows.
Thank you. And Commissioner Doman is not on the call, correct?
He is not.
Okay, so that's our poll, our straw poll. For the staff, they get the tax credit they get is only the one tax credit. It's not the two.
So they could apply for the state rehabilitation tax credit as well. It's a separate agency. I don't know what their policy would be if they would only give a tax credit if the original wood windows were rehabilitated. I have seen them give tax credits for replacement windows on a case-by-case basis. Was that your question? If it would qualify for both the state and the local? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it could potentially qualify for the state and the local, which would be 25% from us, 20% from the state for a 40% total credit. But at a minimum, it would qualify for the 25% local tax credit.
Thank
for the
you.
wood windows. Yep.
Well, I think we need to start and take a vote on make a motion for the staff based on the staff recommendations as they stand. And we can do a poll, we can do it individually, or we can just do our usual aye, nay, and abstain.
I'd be willing to make a motion. Ms. Commissioner Haynes, I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve HOP number 1116058 at 113 Elm Street, Tacoma Park, based on the staff reports that require the, I believe it was 3, 5, 8, 9 windows, or the windows on the side elevation to be replaced with wood. The rear window can be replaced with a clad unit, and that the front door be replaced with a wood door in similar style to what is appropriate.
Do I have a second on this motion?
This is Commissioner Nasser. I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Commissioner Dominiani, could you say that again, please?
Sorry, aye.
Are there any nays? Are there any abstentions? Then the motion passes. So you need to follow the staff recommendations and replace the windows with the wood windows. And please understand, we do sympathize with you, but we do have to follow the regulations. And you should talk with staff about the tax credits and talk to them about applying for the state level as well as the local level tax credits.
Can I say something?
Certainly.
I just wanted to address the owners. I know you said that the other windows are in good shape, but when they come to replace these windows, you might want them to check those closely. You might not see things that are already started deteriorating or need maintenance. So it would be very wise to start maintaining those and taking care of those before they get to this shape.
Thank you. And with that, thank you very much for coming forward. We do appreciate your making your case. And you can speak with staff about what you do going forward. Okay, thank you very much. All right, our next case moving on tonight is item 1G at 7329 Baltimore Avenue, Tacoma Park. Is there a staff report?
Yes, there is, Madam Chair. I just want to check to make sure that we don't need a pause for anybody else who's participating. Rebecca Dewey, or is everybody else set?
Nope, everybody's all checked in for this item.
Okay, fantastic. This is the staff report for Historic Area Work Permit number 1121582 at 7329 Baltimore Avenue. This is the subject property in front of you. This is a non-contributing resource to the Tacoma Park Historic District. It was actually, this is not constructed in 1913. It was constructed in 1953. That's an error. The standards of review for this are the Tacoma Park Historic District Design Guidelines, Montgomery County Code, Chapter 24A, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. Back in July, at the 9th, we had a preliminary consultation for the current proposal. The commissioners found unanimously that the roof demolition and construction of a second story was appropriate. that a streetscape study was unnecessary based on the unique site conditions, specifically that there's a road dedication to the north of the property and a non-contributing building to the south with elevation changes, and that the proposed materials were consistent with what is required for additions and alterations to non-contributing resources in the Tacoma Park Historic District. Additionally, the fenestration alterations would not have a significant impact on the character of the resource and not the surrounding district, and that painting the brick exterior was appropriate as the brick itself is not a historic fabric, and it would help obscure the repairs to the altered fenestration. So again, the applicant proposes to remove the roof of the existing building, construct a second story, alter the fenestration, and construct a rear addition that includes a rear deck. Just at the last meeting on July 23rd, the HPC approved a one-bay garage to the left of the house in the rear of the yard. So just to familiarize yourself, this is the subject property underneath the yellow arrow. This is working your way down the street on Baltimore Avenue. You see partial view of the property. Again, the large open space to the left is the 40-foot roadway dedication. In the front, in the left elevation. Oops, sorry. I don't know why it wants to stop there, pardon me. And then you see from the rear, you see the neighboring property, which is also an infill construction. And then again, on the lower right, you see the large open space between the two properties here, the road dedication, which actually has a stormwater management pipe running through it, also has trees planted on it. So again, just to run through the elevations real quickly, again, the front door is being relocated. All of the windows on the ground floor, which are aluminum sliders, are going to be replaced with vinyl 1/1 sash windows, fiber cement siding on the second floor, standing seam metal shed roof for the garage, for the front porch. Again, all of the existing window openings are going to be altered on the right elevation with vinyl sash windows, and you see the composite deck on the right there. On the left side, there is a new entrance with a composite door and a textured block retaining wall, no more than 18 inches high, is going to be installed around that new entrance. Siding to match, and then there is going to be a screened-in porch in the left rear corner. And then on the rear elevation, this was a correction from the previous drawing. We have siding that matches the rest of the house, and then a single light picture window on the second floor. So staff finds that the design guidelines support a whole house demolition and finds that the partial demolition should be approved as a matter of course. Staff finds the proposed materials are compatible under the design guidelines. The rear deck material is identified as composite, but a specification was not included. And the front porch roof is identified as standing seam metal. Often these are standing seam metal systems, and we would require more detailed specifications for that. Staff finds that constructing the second story and new front gable roof will not overwhelm the streetscape or negatively impact the character of the district as a whole, which is the standard used in the design guidelines. The property to the right, which is seen below the subject property, is at a higher grade and set back further from Baltimore Avenue and has a side gable roof, so the full height is expressed at the left side of the house. Additionally, there's a 40-foot road dedication, which you can faintly see in light yellow to the left of the subject property, that will not be built on. Staff finds the proposed rear addition will only be partially visible from the public right-of-way and will not substantially impact the visible size or mass to the detriment of the district as a whole per the design guidelines. And staff finds that the changes to the fenestration will not impact the size or mass of the resource. Staff finds the proposed front porch and rear deck are compatible with the character of the house and surrounding district, and that the porch helps to break up the massing of the house. So staff recommends that the HPC approve the HOP with two conditions. Condition 1 is that material specifications for the proposed rear porch must be submitted to staff for review and approval before the release of the final HOP approval documents. Just note that the adopted deck and porch substitute material guidelines for non-contributing resources allow maximum flexibility in just about any material, and that material specifications for the proposed front porch roof must be submitted for review and approval before the release of the final HOP documents. That justification is under Chapter 24 AAD, the design guidelines and standards for rehabilitation number 2 and 9. And with that, I will answer any questions that you have at this time.
Are there any questions for the staff from the commissioners? Yep. Put your hand up. I don't see any hands, so we don't have any questions for staff. Tonight we have the applicant, Mr. Brown, and public testimony from the neighbor Stanley Reed. Mr. Brown, would you like to say anything about your case or your application at this point?
Yes, I agree with the staff recommendations and will fully comply with what they have noted. Based on the previous meetings and the staff report, the house as designed complies with the guidelines of the historic preservation for non-contributing structures, which was detailed in the staff report. So, I'd like to spend the rest of my time just addressing the comments from the neighbor at 7327 Baltimore Avenue regarding our application for the second floor addition. Our home was built in 1953, more than 3 decades before the neighbor house was constructed in 1986. While I appreciate their enjoyment of openness to green space and light that comes with living next to a one-story house, historic preservation program was never intended to guarantee permanent sight lines across someone else's property, especially true for 2 properties that are non-contributing to the historic district. On the question of looming and massing, the staff report and even our neighbor statement acknowledges that our proposed height will be less in elevation than their home. It will also be at a lower elevation than the neighbor on the other side of the property. Also, the neighbor's house is on higher ground and is set further back from the front property line, which further reduces any visual impact. The current concerns expressed by the neighbor appear to tend to limit the ability of me to construct the addition as designed. I'd just like to note the design of my house meets all applicable zoning, setback, and height regulations, and isn't fully in line with the Historic Preservation Commission's design guidance. We have designed a well thought out home that fits well within the historic district and meets the needs of my family. We are in no way building more than what is needed by our family. The design is under zoning height maximum. We're at 25 feet 5 inches to midpoint, and zoning allows 30. We're under the lot occupancy by close to 15%. And our addition only extends back 14 feet from our existing structure. This is in comparison to the neighbor's home and addition, which extends back almost 50 feet from our house. I sympathize with the neighbor's concerns, but that should not limit the use of our property when we are complying with all applicable standards. That is, I'd like to show one picture if possible. I'm trying to do that now, and Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The neighbors, one of their concerns that was expressed to me is this window. I believe it's their kitchen window. And we had discussions and I kind of staked out where the endpoint of my addition would be. It's roughly 14 feet back. It may slightly encroach on this window, but it still provides them with over a 90-degree view across my property and through the back of the property. And there's nothing in the guidelines for contributing structures that protect these views, especially in a neighborhood that was designed for houses to be close together with minimum setbacks of 7 feet. Really, the only reason this house isn't like anything immediately adjacent to it is because it's set back so much further than the other houses in the district, in the historic district. And that's it. I'm trying to figure out how to stop sharing.
Thank you, Mr.
That's
Brown.
it. Thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Brown from the commissioners? Raise your hand. I don't see any hands, so if that's the case, then we'll go on to the testimony of Mr. Stanley Reed, the adjacent neighbor.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. I'm Stan Reed. My wife Joyce Branda is here with me. We built our house next door at 7327 Baltimore Avenue in 1986, over 39 years ago. Paul Treseder, some of you may know, was the architect who designed our home. I want to make a couple of very preliminary remarks. We welcome the renovation and the expansion of this property, which has been sorely neglected for many years as a result of the serious health and financial problems suffered by the prior owner, Helen Perry, and her 2 adult sons, Rodney and Donnie, with whom we were very good friends. We also appreciate Mr. Brown's cooperation with us. While he did not reach out to us initially, he responded to our inquiries. He's answered our questions as best he could, and he's been very courteous to us for over the last 6 weeks or so. So I want to make it clear that we've tried to maintain a good relationship, and I think he has done the same on his end on this difficult issue. And I want to note that we did not oppose the proposed driveway and garage portion of the proposed renovation of this property. When we built our house, I've heard it referred to repeatedly as a non-contributing source. It sounds so demeaning. But when we built our house and when we did a major renovation in 2000, we went through this Historic Preservation Commission process. For our renovation project in particular, to which Mr. Brown referred, we selected an architect who studied the historical building patterns in the area and designed the exterior of the addition to be consistent with those historical design patterns. So we've been very careful on our end to try and meet all the Historic Preservation Commission requirements and to preserve the character of our house consistent with what we believe to be the character of our neighborhood. Our issue with the proposed addition is not aesthetic. We have made clear in our written submission that our concern is with the scale and massing of the renovation project and the concomitant impact on the neighborhood character and in particular on our home. The photos we submitted, maybe we can go through them in a minute. The photos we submitted show that our current views from all 3 bedrooms on that side of the house will be, if not completely obstructed, significantly obstructed.
Mr. Reed,
This view.
Mr. Reed, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just do want to inform you your 3 minutes are up. Chair Burdett, would you like to allow additional time? You're muted. I'm sorry, Chair Burdett.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Reed, if you could wrap up your comments in 1 minute.
Okay, I will try and do that. The addition, the height and depth of the addition is massive. It will obstruct fully both bedroom windows on the 2nd floor, and probably, and most, if not all, on the 3rd floor. Will also impinge on the large window, which is an architectural feature of our house, looking out from the kitchen as reflected in these photographs. The staff indicated that the property addition will not have the effect of looming over its non-contributing neighbor, but I think the position of the staff is a little bit myopic, because looming does not mean it is just that it's taller than. It can mean that it's massive. It can mean that it's a large presence that encroaches on the property. We are very close together. This addition will make our 2 houses the only houses in our neighborhood that are literally on top of each other. We are not opposed to a significant addition. This particular addition, we think, is large. It is too large for the neighborhood. It will have an adverse impact on our house. We do not believe we are entitled to permanent, site views, as Mr. Brown suggested, but we do believe that it's reasonable, given the character of the homes in our neighborhood, that the addition should be scaled back a bit to allow us to have some views from that side of the house, and to not certainly impinge on our kitchen window. So with that, I feel like we've tried to work as hard as we can with Mr. Brown. He's worked with us, but I think that the staff has taken a position about the size of this project that is not appropriate, given how close we are with the setback. And references, by the way, to our house being in the back, that was designed that way so it would not impinge on the home next to us. So this is a view from our kitchen window. And as I understand it from Mr. Brown's testimony, that we're going to have some of that addition blocking the window.
Mr. Reed, I'm sorry, the time is up. I just want to let everybody know and inform the chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Are there any questions for this speaker? And I think I will start with one. I'm speaking. Mr. Brown mentioned the setbacks. And Mr. Reed, I would like to ask you, how far back is your house setting from the setback or from the property line, and does it comply with the setback requirements?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It fully complies.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions based on the neighbor's testimony? I see no hands, and if there aren't, then we will start our comments. Would somebody like to start? Commissioner Nasser. You're muted.
Sorry, this is Commissioner Nasser. Mr. Reed, I appreciate the time and your testimony, but in my opinion, I agree with the staff. This house is designed, actually one of the good examples of that come in front of us. looking at the plan, I don't see any supersized room like a bedroom that's 20 by 20 or something like that. Most rooms are very nicely sized and to address the needs of the owner. And I understand your challenge. When I moved to my house, the next door neighbor was a very small single bungalow. And then a few years after that, this almost 3-story house was built, and 2 of my bedrooms are facing a solid wall now. But since the owner is complying with all the zoning and regulation, and they are trying to just provide what they need for their family and for their property, I agree with the staff, and I think this house is properly sized. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner Nasser. Commissioner Haynes?
Thank you. This is Commissioner Haynes. Looking up and down your street, there are certainly homes that are much larger than what is being proposed. While those homes aren't as close in terms of side yards, they are certainly, in terms of height, taller than what is being proposed. Furthermore, your home is grade-wise is up higher than the applicant's. And looking at the applicant's elevations, the actual roof line will likely be below your second floor windowsills. So I don't find that the massing will unduly harm. Yes, you'll look out your second floor bedroom windows and you'll see some roof, you'll see some sky, but you'll certainly get sunlight into those rooms. And so I don't find your arguments convincing. The length of the addition marginally will block your kitchen window. You'll still have predominantly a green view out to the distant yards and trees beyond. So I don't honestly don't find your arguments convincing at all. So with that, I tend to favor the design as planned. The only consideration I might recommend is that the extension maybe be offset a foot on each side, perhaps in an effort to minimally scale down the addition, but still allow for reasonable size screen porch and family room. But that might be the only constraint I might make. But otherwise, I find the design, the massing, the scale to be appropriate to the neighborhood, the materials, etc., the style of the house to be appropriate. And I would certainly vote to approve this project as is.
Thank you, Commissioner Haynes. Are there any other comments from the other commissioners? If not, then I will make my comments and close this out, and then we can vote afterwards. I agree with Commissioner Nasser and Commissioner Haynes that I don't find your arguments compelling. Again, as Commissioner Nasser said, that this addition does comply with the zoning and the regulations and requirements for an addition, in this neighborhood. The original house was very small, and it was, all they're asking for is an additional 14 feet off the back and a second story. And that is not an unreasonable request given the site constraints on this house. They cannot add to the side. They have an easement that they cannot build on, and can't get access or can't buy that easement without considerable cost. Your house is not a historic resource. It was built after Tacoma Park was made a historic district. The addition off the back is a one-story addition, and it extends quite a long ways out. And it is very close to the setback line. And again, Mr. Brown can't get any, I mean, he's just sticking within the perimeter of the original house and putting the addition on the back. So I will have no problem voting for Mr. Brown and for his addition, because I find that his plan and his elevations are very sympathetic to the neighborhood and to the scale of the neighborhood. And he is living with some serious site constraints. And he is not asking for any relief from those site constraints. So with that, if there are no other comments, then I would like a motion on the application for the addition and of the property. Commissioner
Might I
Haynes?
be heard, might I be heard, Chairman Burdette, briefly?
Yes, briefly.
Yes, I appreciate Mr. Haynes' comments and suggestions. The fact is that as we understand it, and the plans are for the height of the addition to be 14 feet above the current roof line, this will definitively block fully both windows on the second floor and likely most of the window on the third floor. There will be no sunlight coming in. We will be looking straight into the walls of the house on the second and third floor. I'm not arguing. I'm just telling you, I think you're mistaken, Mr. Haynes. And in addition, Ms. Burdette, your comment that the house could not be built on the side is not correct. There is at least 5 to 7 feet on that side, but we're not suggesting that should be done. I just want to correct the misimpressions.
Can I have I just want to just clarify that we are restricted on both sides of our house by required setbacks. So we can't shift the addition 1 foot away from their house. And the fact remains that our house in elevation will be lower than the neighbor's house. And just the views aren't protected. I could plant trees all along the property line. So
Understood, Mr. Brown.
I'll leave it at that.
I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your argument, Mr. Reed, and we're going to take a vote now on this application for this renovation of this house and the addition included in that renovation. Commissioner Haynes?
So this is Commissioner Haynes. I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve HOP 1121-582 at 7329 Baltimore Avenue based on the staff conditions noted in the staff report.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Commissioner Pelletier, I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays or abstentions? There are not. This motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Thank you for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will be moving on to our next item tonight. If I can find that. There it is.
Chair Burdette?
Yes.
I need to ask us if we can pause the live feed, if you don't mind.
That would be fine. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Hold on, wait. We're not, okay. I'm sorry. Now we are back live.
Thank you. This is Commissioner Haynes, and I'd like to make a disclosure regarding this case on Stringtown Road, Clarksburg. I know Susan Haynes, one of the architects for Goodman Parker, and just wanted to declare that I have no interest or financial gain from my relationship with Susan Haynes.
Thank you.
So this is, this case that we're going to be hearing tonight is 23200 Stringtown Road, Clarksburg. It involves the Day House, which is a historic resource in Clarksburg, and the possible addition of a library on the site. Is there a staff report, or do we just go straight to the preliminary?
Well, there is a staff report, Chair Burdett.
Thank you.
Hold on 1 second, please. Alrighty, so this is the staff report for the preliminary consultation at 23200 Stringtown Road in Clarksburg. This is at the southern end of the Clarksburg Historic District. It includes the Day House, which is a contributing resource to the Historic District. That house was constructed circa 1925. This hop and this preliminary consultation and all subsequent hops should be reviewed under the Clarksburg Historic District Amendment, the Vision of Clarksburg, Montgomery County Code Chapter 24A, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. And outlined in yellow in the screen in front of you is the subject property. So the applicant proposes to construct a Clarksburg branch of the county library system on the property. The library will have approximately a 10,000 square foot footprint, and based on my really rough calculations, it will be approximately 65 feet by 150 feet. Approximately 8,000 square feet of parking are to be included. Under the current proposal, they are constructed underneath the library. The applicant also proposes to extend Clarks Ridge Road. The existing right-of-way to the north is 50 feet wide, and the extension of Clarks Ridge Road is approximately 400 feet in length, and other site improvements will be constructed accordingly. So just to familiarize yourself, this report will use Frederick Road and Maryland 355 interchangeable, but that is the main road here in Clarksburg. You can see the Day House in the upper left and lower right corners. Working your way, this is across the street from Dowden's Ordinary Park, across Stringtown Road, and then further down the block on the left, you see looking to the east towards the Day House. And then this is the shared use path along Stringtown Road. And then finally, we have the existing curb cut intended for Clarks Ridge Road at some point. And then this is looking into the property from Stringtown Road with its overgrown and somewhat forested character. So the Clarksburg Historic District and the Vision of Clarksburg, I recognize a historic core, which is outlined in dark, and a buffer area, which is to create a graceful transition between the Historic District and the Clarksburg Town Center, which is built to the east of the property. The vision also includes the objective of maintaining building setbacks, the directional expression of buildings, and the relationship of front yard setbacks and building spacing. So the objective of this preliminary consultation is to evaluate the proposed location of the library to ensure that the development will reinforce the historic character of the Clarksburg Historic District. Subsequent preliminary consultations will focus on 1, appropriate massing schemes, design and materials to assess the overall compatibility of the library, and design and other features of Clarks Ridge Road. And at some point, we should include plans to rehabilitate the day house and incorporate it into the library proposal. So the HPC's evaluation of the library's placement and later considerations of its architecture will ensure that the new construction satisfies the objectives outlined in the vision, is compatible with the overall character of the Clarksburg Historic District, and is sited and designed to take full advantage of the site's prominence and role within the rural village, and that the new building can utilize the existing site's unique features. An example of a recent infill in Clarksburg is actually across 355. You can see in the image on the right, you can see the day house in the lower right corner. So this is a Hammer Hill. In 2020, the HPC reviewed and approved a HOP to construct an elementary school or a preschool and behind the historic house. And there were a number of challenges associated with the site. Site access from Frederick Road is one of them. No access could be provided by Stringtown Road except for pedestrian access due to the regrading associated with the road's construction. Also, ensuring that the building didn't detract from the historic building, from the historic construction, and was sufficiently separated. So in the image at the top, you see the historic house outlined in blue and the outline of the proposed building in red. Additionally, enclosed playground space was built to the rear or to the left of the proposed new construction. And you can see one of the objectives of that new construction was to ensure that the ridge height was below the ridge of the historic house. The site has a number of constraints on it, including a sanitary water easement, stormwater easement. There are easements related to the shared use path along Stringtown Road. There is an approved shared use path along Maryland 355 that the HPC has already approved. And the master plan, the adopted master plan, contemplates the extension of Clarks Ridge Road from where it's already partially constructed in the north across the site to the constructed curb cut. The applicant identified a number of potential areas to construct the building. 4 of them were rejected either for improper access or slope or size limitations, and area 2 was identified as the appropriate location. So again, these are the rejected proposals. Area 1 includes difficult access from Frederick Road and a stormwater easement across. Area 2 tries to straddle that, but it has additional surface parking. We can go through them later if we'd like, and we can refer back to them at any point. So the applicant preferred location is located here, adjacent to Stringtown Road and sort of behind the day house. The building is oriented towards Stringtown Road, with access to the site provided by Clarks Ridge Road. And again, most of the parking would be below the library. There are net zero objectives to the construction, which we won't get into at this time, but we'll note that the library will include solar panels. Again, this is a little more detailed site. The other objective is to provide, let me go back. The construction will provide access to the day house. It's currently cut off from both Frederick Road and Stringtown Road and is only accessible as a pedestrian. So this will provide some vehicular access along through Clarks Ridge Road onto the site. So staff finds that the proposed landscape surrounding the property has lost much of its historic integrity, as the location has been substantially altered from its historic appearance by demolishing historic outbuildings, regrading the site to the widening of Stringtown Road and construction of the shared use path, and the overgrowth of significant number of trees. You can see from the aerial photograph in front of you that the site was largely open, as was much of the surrounding area. Now the aerials show it's largely forested. That doesn't seem to be intentional. It just seems to be left to grow. So staff finds that the proposed that the selected site location appears to be the only area large enough to accommodate a building of the size that the applicants are proposing. That the proposed location would allow pedestrian access from Stringtown Road. That the proposal will provide vehicular access to the day house, which again is currently cut off from both Maryland 355 and Stringtown Road. And the site will benefit from the yet to be constructed new shared use path along Maryland 355. Staff finds the proposed location presents several issues, including the library seems disconnected to the historic district and its settlement pattern. The library is not engaged with the larger urban form by the district, turning away from Maryland 355. That the construction of Clarkstridge Road appears to pose a substantial logistical challenge due to the drop in grade from the north and the south, and will require a substantial land dedication. And that the day house is not integrated into the new site use or overall proposal. So the day house has a number of challenges on its own. It is in a degraded condition caused by deferred maintenance and some break-ins. The change settings around the house, which includes the widening of those multi-use paths, both along Stringtown Road and Maryland 355. Additionally, the approved path along 355 will reduce the front yard by approximately 14 feet and remove 2 trees. And the increased traffic, noise, and pollution have changed the relationship of the house to the surrounding historic district. Just to give you an example of these, I think some of these images were in the staff report. You see an image from our files, which predate the 1992 dedication of the historic district, where Stringtown Road was 2 lanes wide with a field to the south. And now we have the existing condition in the lower right. Oops, sorry, I'll go back one. So again, a 1998 aerial before Stringtown Road had been enlarged and the left. And then we see 2021 below with a much expanded both Stringtown Road and Frederick Road and the developments associated with those. One of the things contemplated in the staff report is the potential of relocating the day house. Relocating the day house would allow the library to be constructed on the corner of Stringtown Road and 355 and be better integrated into the settlement pattern of the surrounding district. It would also accommodate pedestrian access from both elevations. And regardless of the HPC's position, staff recommends that utilization of the day house needs to be an integral part of the development so it does not continue to suffer from its vacant condition. There is a precedent for relocating historic buildings in the district. Clarksburg Elementary School was relocated in 1972 to accommodate the expansion and renovation of Clarksburg Elementary School, which is accessed from Redland Road. You see in the aerial, the circle in the lower left was the original location of Clarksburg Elementary, and it was relocated to the circle in the upper right, which allows it to read as an independent standalone building while allowing the school to grow. I'll just note that the school is also half in the district and half out. Also, Clarksburg Elementary, Clarksburg's historic school is also a master plan site, which falls within the boundaries of the Clarksburg Historic District. So staff finds that the subject property at the entrance of the historic district is an appropriate location for the county library. Requested feedback is, does the HPC concur with staff's finding regarding the appropriateness of constructing a library on the site? Staff's second finding is that the extension of Clarkstridge Road is an action encouraged in the adopted area master plan. Does the HPC support this expansion of the existing road network? And what additional information is required to evaluate this portion of the proposal? Third, staff finds the proposed library location is disengaged from the district by turning away from Maryland 355 and is disconnected from the historic district settlement pattern, and recommends consideration of an alternative location that would better take advantage of the site with the prominence of a new public civic building. Does the HPC find the proposed location appropriate? And if not, is another location on the site preferable? Finally, The next preliminary consultation should focus on the scale and massing of the proposed building. And as the applicant prepares for that submission, staff soliciting HPC input on if there are any specific materials that need to be submitted for future consideration of the new building's massing and scale, in addition to any streetscape studies. And also, what information about the treatment and rehabilitation of the day house does the HPC need for future evaluation? And with that, I will answer any questions that the commissioners have at this time. Mr. Galway?
There we go. Yes, I had to unmute. Thanks, Dan, for that. That's quite comprehensive. There's a lot to think about. The one question I had, you mentioned that the day house is currently vacant. Is that privately owned? Is that owned by Clarksburg? What do you know? What the situation is with the existing home?
So the house is on the subject property. So it was recently sold to the county, and so it's owned by the county and unoccupied at this point.
Okay, thank you.
This is Chair Berta. I have a question for staff. It was mentioned that the new shared use path that goes down 355 will widen and take away 14 feet of front yard. Exactly how close to the front porch will the edge of that shared use path be? Roughly.
It's about 12 feet.
So just 12 feet away from the porch will be a shared use path, which means that it would be like the houses that are along old houses along 355 down in Gaithersburg, which are like right up at the sidewalk.
So at the intersection, and it was included in the staff report, and it was in the applicant submission, there is right at the intersection, there's a 6-foot buffer, and then there's the shared use path. So that's where that 14-foot figure comes in. And I think, you know, when the HPC approved the shared use path in 2019 or 2020, I'm forgetting off the top of my head, that buffer was recognized as necessary for public safety to utilize the shared use path. So that trade-off was recognized at the time and was just part and parcel of you know, again, that was an objective within the master plan to improve circulation on this around the site and in the historic district.
My next question is, when you look at the other properties on the other 3 corners, on the opposite side of 355, there's Hammer Hill, which is a historic house, and it's pulled quite a ways back from the road. On the opposite corner then of Hammer Hill, is it a park or is it a historic property? But whatever it is, it's pulled quite a ways back, correct?
So it's Downs Ordinary Park. So it was the site of an 18th century tavern and inn. There is sort of the frame of the historic building on the site, but the historic building is long since gone. But it is a county park, and you know, has its landscaping and paths and interpretive signage, but it's you know, operated by Montgomery Parks, and is otherwise undeveloped.
And so across from the day house on Stringtown Road, it's built right up to the corner, right?
A contemporary commercial development with parking adjacent to Stringtown Road, and then commercial buildings.
So then on adjacent to the property, the day house property at the far side, the north side, that's a commercial property too. Is it parking or a building?
I'm sorry, to the north of the day house here. Let me share this out.
Right, or is it west? Further along 355.
So there is there's a stormwater easement along here, just to the up north on Frederick Road 355. There was a historic house on this lot at one point in time, and then there is an infill commercial building located to the north with parking lot to the north of that undeveloped property.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the lot that you're
That-
wondering about?
That's the one I was wondering about.
Okay.
Yes, that's very clear. Thank you.
Haynes, you have your hands up?
I do. Couple questions. You noted potential relocation. Has there been any sites identified that would be appropriate to relocate the day house?
Oh, that is not a discussion that we've actually entered into with the applicant team yet. It was, that's unfortunately that's sometimes the nature of reviewing and writing the staff reports, is we have to get our thoughts down, and there is a pencils down portion to make sure that you all have the opportunity to evaluate that. But I think that the applicant team is prepared to respond to some of that, and of course they're, I'm sure, welcome to any questions that you may have aimed at them.
I appreciate that. Is it fair to say that the day house represents the end or the edge of the historic district? Meaning going down Stringtown Road, there's really no, or I'm asking, are there additional historic structures that are part of the Clarksburg district? It doesn't appear to be. It seems like
There are not. There were some outbuildings that the HPC or the HP supervisor approved the demolition of. I believe some were cited by DHCA for their poor condition, and the historic preservation supervisor approved their demolition as non-historic structures. But there is nothing else built behind the day house within the district.
Very good. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff? If there are not, then we will let the applicant make their presentation on this preliminary.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen right now. Can you all see my screen at this time?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. Good evening, everyone. I was here chomping at the bit because a lot of these questions can be probably answered with the presentation, hopefully. Hello, my name is Antonio Rebello. I'm a principal with Greenman Parker Architects and lead designer for this project. And on behalf of this entire team here on this slide, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to share the vision for the new Clarksburg Library, which is a project that has been eagerly anticipated by the community and represents a meaningful and significant public investment for the community. Tonight's presentation will focus mainly on the process for the selection of the building location on the site. It is important to note that we will not be discussing the exterior architectural character of the building at this time. All right. So I guess this drawing is important that we look at it a little bit. The proposed site for the new public library is located within the boundaries of the historic district as defined by the vision of Clarksburg plan shown here. And the site sits at its very edge along the south boundary with Stringtown Road. So it is really at the very, very corner. As we analyze the site, several key historic preservation considerations were identified, such as compatible use, location on the edge of the historic district, compatibility with scale and proportion, preserving desired openness and visual porosity of the streetscape, locating the building as close to the street as possible, positioning the building along Stringtown Road, which will help divert traffic from Frederick Road, using the context as a reference for appropriate building materiality, and respecting the existing historic day house. The proposed site is located along Stringtown Road on that grove of trees that you see there in this image. These views here show the general condition of the site boundaries along Frederick Road and Stringtown Road, and note that the extent of vegetation that exists today along Frederick Road and the more open site conditions along Stringtown Road shown on the upper right picture here. These images illustrate how the steep topography into the site from Stringtown Road is, and the historic house at the corner of Frederick Road and Stringtown Road. The site, as seen in plan view, has multiple easements across it for sanitary, utilities right away, storm easement and outfall, setbacks from the historic house, right away for the road extension per the master plan, in addition to the steep slopes. These steep slopes can be better understood through these section drawings that illustrate the challenging site conditions we face here. Basically, the site is a bowl. So based on all of these restrictions, the team identified the available suitable building areas and available land for future housing development. This preliminary analysis started to point out that Area 2, shown on this slide as the most suitable area for the building pad location, given its size, which then we proceeded to study through multiple test fits. Other information identified was what was mentioned here, the projected shared use path that envelops the northwest corner of the site where they house here, and the Clarks Ridge Road extension that was confirmed by verifying the master plan and the available plan. And based on all of this, multiple test fit studies ensued, which led to one option indicated here as number 5, being the most viable for the new 20,000 square foot library, not 10, as indicated earlier. Each of the test fits shown on the previous slide were studied in detail and put to the test relative to all the required elements for this project, which include parking, and passed or failed by weighing in all the pros and the cons. Each option was analyzed also in section, and the challenges of working with the topography revealed what each option required in order to allow for the new building to even have a presence along the road and not be buried, so to speak, in the bowl of the site. And so we studied each one, and it started to become evident to us that locating a surface parking lot would greatly complicate the way one enters the facility, require extensive tree removal, and reduce the available area of the site for future housing. And again, the moment we provide surface parking, the project would require extensive fill as well as more impervious area. One by one of these options revealed the challenges that eventually led to their elimination. This one here, for example, tested locating the building along Frederick Road. The desire to front the street edge with the building and not the parking meant that parking had to be located to the rear, which meant that the building entrance also has to be closer to the parking, making it a challenge from the street. And the easement's a true impossibility, not to mention how a new curb cut on Frederick Road would certainly exacerbate traffic congestion and create unsafe conditions for pedestrians and motorists alike. Again, here are some of the multiple site section studies that we did for the test fit. We even studied this option of locating the building along Frederick Road with a parking garage below the building, so we could minimize the footprint of the building on the site. But still, the stormwater easement, the increased traffic congestion along Frederick Road, and the proximity to the historic day house proved to be failing points. However, in terms of section study, the idea of stacking the building over the parking was something that we saw as a benefit to the site, as it provides the most suitable or sustainable solution that reduces impervious area. That's how this option of locating the library above the parking along Stringtown Road rose to the top when we enumerated all the pros and the cons. This option offers an adequate buffer to the historic house, provides a good street presence along Stringtown Road, hides parking from view, relieves traffic congestion, and can be built within all the easement constraints. By stacking the building over the parking, it allows bringing the front door to the street elevation without extensive fill and hides the parking from view, all good things that help preserve the site. And so our proposed concept site plan is the result of this extensive site analysis, zoning research, and multiple test fits. The building entrance is located along the street front as it should be, inviting all pedestrians that circulate along the sidewalks and the shared use path into the building, shown here with the black dotted lines. It also allows for a safe vehicular circulation by providing access from the new Clarks Ridge Road extension shown in the orange arrows. It fits well within with all the required easements as explained before, and by providing roof and some site space for renewable energy in the form of solar panels, it allows the building to meet its net zero goals. thank you so much. And I'll welcome any questions you might have.
Are there any questions for the applicant? I'll start with the question is, has any thought been given to the day house and what will become of it?
So what I understand is that the county has received a lot of interest on the use of the day house, and they are certainly planning to study it further. And that is something that is definitely something in their radar, and they're thinking about it. But there's nothing specific right now at this time that I can share with you about specific plans. But it's something that they are thinking about for sure.
But it doesn't sound like it would be integrated into the library function on the property.
Not really at this time, no. But I will let Mr. Assant elaborate on that, since they are the owners of the property.
Thank you. Good evening. Greg Assant, Deputy Director, Department of General Services. Yeah, so we've discussed the day house quite a bit, and obviously knew when we acquired the property that we would be acquiring the day house along with it, and needed to take certain considerations as we sought to design and lay out the library. As you can see, we are the current design, as Antonio outlined, preserves and protects the library. There's no plan to incorporate the day house itself into the library program, if that is one of the questions. We looked at that. It's not something that libraries was interested in. And so we've set back the library from the day house, provided a buffer around it, and will obviously protect it throughout the course of the construction project. As it relates to Dan's presentation and one of his bullet points about the staff recommendations, we wholeheartedly agree that consideration of the day house needs to happen now. And while it's not part of our historic area work permit for the library itself, it will be the subject of a future historic area work permit when we come in for the reuse of the structure. I think what we are planning to do as part of the library construction is we will seek the funding to repair the house, stabilize it, but not necessarily the resources to reuse it. As Antonio mentioned, we've been out to the community dozens of times over the years to talk about the Clarksburg Library. And I've personally had conversations with folks from the community who are interested in potential reuse of the day house. And we want to entertain all of those at some point. The county's disposition process and deciding what group that goes to or who gets to use that house or how it's used is a long and protracted policy discussion, both with the executive and the county council, and we're just not there yet. Our whole focus at this point is really to get the library designed and under construction. As I'm sure all of you are aware, the Clarksburg Library has been a long-sought public investment. We just finished the fire station, and the community has waited a very long time for this library, and they're very anxious to get us underway. But again, we agree with all of the staff comments about the day house in terms of its reuse needed to be a consideration now. We fully intend to seek the resources and then bring that back to the HPC at some point in the future.
Considering that the day house is getting rather pinched on that corner now, that both roads have widened and the library is going to be right behind it, it seems possible that it could be lifted and moved, west down 355 to that one where the other house used to stand, and that could possibly allow the library to move closer to 355. Or enlarge towards 355 so that it's not stuck, and so that the corner right now is a significant corner, and it's the edge of the historic district, but the day house really doesn't, as it currently isn't really signifying that. It isn't signifying, historic property of significance because it's so overwhelmed with everything that's going on around it. But also the library if designed appropriately, could signify, this is the start of the Clarksburg Historic District in a grander manner, I guess. And that would give you more space, it'd move it closer up to the corner then at that point, and give you more space to the side for surface parking back along Stringtown Road.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the certainly one of the considerations, and we're interested in the commission's comments and suggestions as it relates to the day house. I think it was mentioned during the staff presentation. Hammer Hill is set way back from the road. There's just new commercial in the ombudsman's office, Clarksburg Ombudsman's office on the opposite corner, and then Dowden's Ordinary on the other corner, which doesn't actually contain a structure, and the topography from the street level, it sits kind of up on a hill. So there's really no indication as you're sitting at the intersection of 355 and Stringtown that you're actually entering a historic district. And so one of the thoughts that we had is that by maintaining the day house there in the corner and then ultimately restoring it to a level that it should be, it's got new paint and a roof on it right now, but it could be a whole lot better. And as I said, we will seek the resources to do the restoration. But the thought here is that maintain its presence on the corner, and that way it announces the historic district, or at least announces the edge of the historic district, that you're entering into something interesting as you go northbound or come off of 270 and go into the historic district. So that was the thought as part of the design, and we're certainly willing to entertain alternatives.
Is there any sort of water runoff now that Stringtown Road, the grading has changed and it's actually higher than it used to be, so that the water, is there any risk that water's going to overflow the curb edge and go down towards the house? And I understand the house is elevated off the ground, but.
Right, the house is elevated. So in terms of the water runoff, there's a stormwater facility right now already along 355 that collects a lot of that water that comes from Frederick Road in that side of the site. So we have not, our engineering studies have not seen any condition that would complicate things in that way. But clearly the slopes there are pretty significant. And so we're going to have stormwater management facilities throughout with the new project.
Thank you. Commissioner Pelletier.
Hi, yeah. What is, I'm looking at the site plan. What is the access to the historic house? Are you providing a driveway to it, sort of around the back? Is that existing?
Yeah, right. I can share the screen again so we can all look at the same picture here. Are you seeing the
Yeah, that's
okay.
what I'm looking at. Mhm.
So if you can see my mouse moving, so this project envisions adding a driveway to the back of the house to facilitate, the approach to that house, which currently has nothing in terms of if you want to bring a car or vehicle closer to that building.
Okay, yeah, that was my other question. Is there an existing driveway?
No, there is not. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Any more questions from the commissioners? I would strongly encourage questions at this point. Commissioner Haynes.
Has the design team considered the benefits of moving the day house and bringing the library closer to the intersection, and what, in doing that, how it might inform the architecture and the layout of the library, and is the pros and cons of doing that, and would it be beneficial to move it?
Right. So moving the day house was a a very light conversation during the very early stages of this process. However, if that building is going to be used for the community and by the community or by someone that wants to have a cafe, shop, or anything, the survivability of any retail would depend on that location. For that reason, that's one of the most important reasons why we think it would be a mistake to actually move the house, because you're actually going to be negating some of the benefits of visibility that anyone would want to have a chance at that corner. And I think that could serve as a catalyst for bringing folks to the corner and then to the library. Also, where the library is actually is beneficial because it is closer to the extension of Clark's Ridge Road from the master plan, and would allow vehicles to circulate in a safer manner and not be so close to that intersection, which the closer you are, every civil engineer will tell you it's a no-no, and you start getting into potential accidents and stuff like that. So it is actually beneficial that the library is further away. Also, we read the document, the Vision of Clarksburg, and within it, there is this desire to maintain the porosity, the visual porosity in Clarksburg as a rural village. We are not talking here, this is not Georgetown, this is not Frederick or other places where there's a lot of density. And so we feel like by setting back that library away from that building actually enhances and respects that building even further. So those were our considerations in relative to the day house in our building.
Thank you.
Sure, thanks.
So, Commissioner Dominiani.
Hi there, this is Commissioner Dominiani. I have a couple of follow-up questions, I think related. I understand based on the dimensions of the constraints you've outlined why kind of like this option number 5 is the best, and citing the library where it is. That makes sense to me, but I'm wondering if, and I also understand the maintaining porosity, okay, like making sure that we have more of a rural setting maintained, but I'm wondering if there are ways, especially with pedestrian access, that could be considered, or if you had considered how you might activate the day house a bit more. I understand you have the driveway there approaching it, which a future tenant or a user could use in some way. I'm wondering if other, potential customers of a business that occupies that space would plan to use that same driveway. Would there be a pedestrian access connecting through to the library from Frederick Road, or people intended to walk around that corner there? Just any of those constraints or considerations about how pedestrians, I think, would be passing by the day house. I understand, Clark Bridge Road is available there too, but people coming from that direction aren't going to be seeing this sort of prominent home on the corner. So if you had any other statements there about how you maybe could consider or would consider activating it, I think we'd yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great comment. I love that idea, and we debated this internally as well by creating a direct path that goes from the library door to the actual door of the day house. Imagine it's being there's a coffee shop and kind of a bookstore or something in the day house, and you could go from that building across. The interesting thing is that there's a pretty wide path right now along Stringtown, and it's going to be connected, as you saw with the sheer path. It's going to be connected. I don't know if creating another meandering path besides it's going to be redundant, and it's going to incur where people are going to go on one path or the other. But the suggestion is valid, and we are in the same mindset. It's just how we can do that. Maybe there's some sort of vegetation or something that connects the two, some landscape design that it's interesting and links them both. So, yeah.
I think it could be worth exploring, especially considering how the grade is in the rear of the house and how kind of like you have 3 stories of historic house facing.
Right, exactly.
Interesting, interaction there, actually. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a good comment. Thanks.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners? If there are not, then we can start with our comments. on this. We will not be voting to approve this tonight. This is just a preliminary, but they would appreciate all of our comments and thoughts on our opinions on this, on the Day House and how it's impacted by this library and its future and its relationship to the Clarksburg Historic District. Commissioner Galway, did you have some questions, or would you just like to make comments? Or
comments if it's appropriate.
Go right ahead.
All right, thank you. It's Commissioner Galway. Yeah, a number of things. Now, this was a very good conversation, and I do really appreciate what the county is trying to do here for Clarksburg. I think it's really important. I tend to like having the Day House remain on the corner the way that it currently is, as opposed to, I know a couple of the commissioners thought or talked about possibly moving it. When I drive north on Stringtown and I hit that intersection and I see that home, it immediately does set like a cornerstone for the beginning of a historic district, and I think there's something to be said for that. So I guess I think from my perspective, leaving the home there and pushing the library a little bit north on Stringtown seems to make sense to me for the most part. There would be nothing that would bother me more than to have the Day House sit there and not have it accessible from the public. And you have to remember, this is still, I mean, maybe not as rural as it used to be, and obviously there's townhomes everywhere, but I do not see people really often walking from Frederick Road to the front of the Day House. I see more a vision of cars zooming around the corner, turning onto Stringtown, turning from Stringtown onto to 355. There's a lot of traffic in that location. So I guess one of the things that I would not be I think would be dangerous, if not really impossible, would be to sort of start to think about creating some curb cuts closer to that intersection. I think that would be a mistake. So then you start thinking about, well, if you don't have curb cuts for the folks who would be visiting by car, then there'd be nothing worse in my mind than having a beautiful historic structure that you can't get to or you can't use. And I would be very concerned that if this became some sort of coffee shop, where in the world, you'd have to go into what's the new road that's going to be Clark's Ridge Road. You'd have to somehow turn down there and park somewhere, or go under the library, park in the library, and then come out of the library and cross over, which seems awfully convoluted as well. So I think from my perspective, I understand that maybe the library doesn't seem to want to use that building, and I get that. I understand. But I think it would be super important, maybe in the way that the parking is arranged as you enter into the library, to also have the ability to have some parking capability, so that somebody could pull off a 355, pull into the compound, and not just have one little driveway for a car to be able to get back to the backside of the Day House, because I think that in of itself would almost render that structure useless. And like I say, what worse thing to have a beautiful building and not have it be able to be utilized by the public? So maybe at the end of the day, you almost have to sort of look at tying this building somehow functionally into the library, so that the folks that would come and park there could have access, or create some sort of surface parking lot on, I guess it'd be the north side of the Day House, or the sort of the northwest side of the new library, to be able to give people a location to park and then walk a short distance to the backside of the Day House. I see very few, if any, of the public literally walking to the Day House from the front side and entering on the front side. It's going to happen, but it's going to be probably less often that's going to occur. Let's see if there's anything else that I was thinking of. I think for the most part, that was it. I think of the options that you have in terms of the library, I think this is probably, the devil's going to be in the details, right? When you pull together what this is going to look like. But I think it seems far enough away. And if you treat things sensitively when you locate it and you design it, and I think that I could see the library working as shown in that option 5. So that's my comments. Thanks very much.
Commissioner Dominiani.
Yeah, to pile on to one remark from Commissioner Galway, I would also tend to not favor relocation. I do think that the house where it's located now is a nice signpost into Clarksburg. Absent, I think there's like a couple of trees that are covered with ivy that are a bit of an eyesore. But anyway, in the future, that'll all get, I think, hopefully treated or taken care of. But I would favor leaving it where it is. And I think that we've seen this before, like in downtown Silver Spring and a few other locations where you have like a very large structure crowding a very small historic structure. And sometimes the design, the materials, the massing of these other buildings end up dominating completely the historic structure. And so I would encourage you, I understand completely why the site of the library is the best where it is, but in picking its materials and even the way it's massed, allowing that day house some room to breathe, I think is going to be really important. And making sure that even with colors and materials that we're thinking about like something that's sympathetic and not just a gigantic hulking, sort of rectangular mass made of metal that is out of context entirely with the day house. That's something I think maybe we'd provide greater feedback on in a future session. But I wanted to put a mark in the sand about that now. And yeah, I think that my other comments would just be about thinking about pedestrian access. I understand it's a car-dominated society, especially when you go further up county, but I think that thinking about, again, how to activate the site there is going to be really important. Maybe that's all for me for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Haynes.
I concur with the comments of the previous 2 commissioners. I do agree that the sensitivity to the massing of the library to the day house is going to be critical to its success. One suggestion regarding the utilization of the day house, if there were, and I don't know this, what the program for the library is, but if there were a specialized resource, if there were a rare books collection or something that could be put in there, that again would make it part of the program of the library and not rely on private business to occupy that and draw people there. I think that's a stronger position to activate that house. I do agree that it kind of does stand now as a landmark to the edge of the historic district, and I think people will, continue to recognize that as such. I do agree that the connection of the library pedestrian wise, and it's a challenge because of the highway, as was noted by Commissioner Dominiani, will be part of the challenge. But generally, I support the option 5 site plan. I think that is the best utility of the site. And so look forward to seeing the next stage of development.
Commissioner Nasser.
Hi, this is Commissioner Nasser. I think one of the challenges here is that there are no future uses proposed for the day house, because in my mind, it will be different if it's going to sit vacant for 10 years there, or it will be part of the library program, like a nice reading room for, dividing it into some reading rooms for children, for adults, and for connecting it to the library somehow. If that's the case, yeah, I would definitely like to have it stay where it is. And in my mind, sometimes people who are not familiar with the area, when they see a small, tiny house compared to a library that's hopefully going to be massed properly, but even with that, it will be much bigger compared to the day house. And it would raise question. Oh, what's going on? And if they're not familiar with the area, that's actually grabs attention to the house, and they might go and find out. Okay, this history of the house, the story of the neighborhood. So it might be a positive thing to just have it and sit there and just grab attention. The location of the house, I completely understand the challenges of the site. I'm sure you've done your work, and to me, the location makes sense. What else? What other questions we have? Yeah, I guess once again, if we could have more information about the future of the day house, I think personally for me that would help a lot to decide like what exactly happens, even for the design of the library. If the day house is going to move way back somewhere, nobody's going to see it, that's a different story. If it's going to be visible from the public way, that's a different story. So if you can get more information on that, that would be great. Thank you.
And I don't see any other commissioners wanting to share their comments, so I will finish up here. I agree with all the previous comments by the other commissioners. I would like to stress that right now the day house is being pinched on that corner, and knowing full well what traffic engineers tend to do is they tend to put all sorts of boxes and light poles and walk signs and everything else and start cluttering up corners very badly. And that's going to be a visual clutter on that corner right in front of the house that everyone's saying this house is important and it should be visible as a marker of the start of the historic district. So I think the county needs to pay attention to this house and start thinking about what are we going to do with it, and not leave it up to the variables of finding some person who might use it for a couple of years and it won't work because they can't get enough parking to have people come to it, and it's going to wind up like the Blair House in Silver Spring, which is a forgotten and ignored property of the county, which the county doesn't take care of. And that's what I don't want to see happen to the day house. I want it to be activated, and the county needs to think about this, because they own the property. They're going to be building this very large library right next to it. They are not going to be providing adequate pedestrian or parking for this property for anybody to use it. It's a prominent property. It is a good-looking house for its time period. And quite frankly, there is property next to it, land next to it, that could be used for parking with a curb cut. It could be used to create a green space that would be a nice place for people who have come to the library to walk out and enjoy the weather, that would be protected somewhat by the day house from being immediately adjacent to 355. And I don't think you're going to be looking at another park back behind that library, because you've got one right across the street. I also want to caution everyone to think carefully about talking about pedestrian use and pedestrian access. That is a very busy intersection. It's a very busy road. And as we know, this summer, when it gets hot, people aren't willing to walk very far distances. And that's a long way from the nearest residential district. I believe it's on the backside of the commercial development across the street. That's a long walk on a 90-degree day, or on a day that's in the winter that's very cold. People are going to be driving to the library. They need to be able to drive to the day house, and something needs to be in the day house that's going to attract people there. And I agree with Commissioner Nasser. The use of the day house needs to be somehow associated with the library, so they can share parking and share interests and activate each other. So those are my comments, and I think you've heard from the commissioners that the day house is important and it needs to be considered more closely and not just as a side to this project. And when you come back again, we'd like to hear more on your thoughts and plans for the day house. And we also look forward to seeing your plans for the library, since it is a very large building and it's going to have a prominence on Stringtown Road. And you might actually consider looking at the previous plan for the Hammerhead. I think it was a day school or some sort of school for small children behind it, because that architect actually worked very hard to reference rural construction materials in their design of their building and the forms and the shapes of the rural outbuildings. And that might be something you need to think about, because again, this is a rural area and we, why repeat the Wheaton Library up in Clarksburg sort of thing. So those, you've heard our comments and our concerns, and we look forward to seeing you soon with another preliminary.
Okay. Rebecca, am I allowed to say thank you? That's been very helpful.
Of course.
Yeah, I didn't want to jump in, but commissioners, thank you very much. It's extremely informative and instructive. We are obviously very anxious to return to the commission in September. We will see you in person, and we will try to address all of these in our upcoming presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, baby.
Great, thank you.
Moving on our agenda for this evening, we will be talking about item 3, the tax credits, group 5.
Hi, this is Laura with the staff. For this group of tax credits for group 5.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We have determined
$850,824.27 in eligible expenses over 21 applications. And we've provided synopses of those credits in your board book.
And if I recall, this is the second to the last of the tax credits for the year.
Yes, it is.
And congratulations that you're so close this time to being early, actually. Can I have a motion to approve Group 5 tax credits?
This is Commissioner Haynes. I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve tax credit Group 5 for calendar year 2024 as stated in the staff review and recommendation report.
Commissioner Galway, I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The tax credits are approved, and thank you very much for your hard work on that. And that was an amazing way to chase off just about everybody that isn't necessary off of this Zoom meeting. Have to remember that next time we want to get people off. And there aren't any meeting minutes, as we were told earlier. There are no commission items. Are there any staff items?
There are a few staff items just for the commission's information. Everybody else is on recess right now, except for you all, which means we're going to come roaring back in September. So we have a lot of dates for public hearings in September related to several master plans. So we're going to have public hearing dates for the University Boulevard Corridor Plan at the County Council. That plan is recommending the designation of the Romeo and Elsie Horad House on University Boulevard. So I will be in touch, Chair Burdett. We're drafting a letter right now for you for that and can work with you to sign you up to testify at one of the council public hearing dates. I'll run the dates by you and by Vice Chair Haynes as well. So if you're not able to attend, maybe Vice Chair Haynes may be able to attend. We also have public hearing dates at the Planning Board for the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan, which will be hearing the designation of ComSat in addition to the African American community at Rocky Hill and the associated African American church in that community. So a lot of there's like something happening every week in September between HPC and all of these public hearings. So I will send you some calendar dates for that, and you can look for draft letters from the staff that we can go back and forth to get your final letters submitted and your testimony signed up.
I'd like to remind everybody when Rebecca mentioned ComSat that's that big giant silver kind of alien looking thing off on the north side of 270. And again, that was designed by master architect Caesar Pelli, and it was one of the very early technology or satellite technology. It was the first satellite business in the country. So it was 270 was supposed to be the East Coast Silicon Valley, and never quite happened. But it really, they had planned to have a stream of high technology, space-oriented businesses up 270, and ComSat was the only one that happened. And if community support doesn't turn out, we're going to lose it. We're going to lose something that was designed and built by Caesar Pelli early on in his career, and it really is an extraordinary building. If you recall from our the hearings, that was back in the fall or even longer ago.
What month is this? This is August. It was in the spring sometime.
Yeah.
I can't remember at all. It
was
a while ago. The plan got pushed.
Yeah.
Maybe it was January. It was January that we did all the public hearings with you guys for Clarksburg.
Yeah.
And the Horad House, I think we heard with you guys a year and a half ago, because University Boulevard got pushed way back.
Yeah. So the Horad House will get approved, but ComSat is probably not going to make it. But if we don't get word out, it's not going to make it for certain, which would be it's going to be one of those moments when, 10 years from now, everyone's going to sit there and say, why did that go down? Why was that allowed to be replaced with yet more townhouses, more Clarksburg townhouses? So that's my rant. All right, anything else? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, guys. This was a bit of a flashback to COVID era, those of us who were on the commission during
Sure.
COVID. So,
Good job.